Okay, so I'm just going to highlight what the meeting is going to entail today. We're going to start off by talking about what is phonics. How are we teaching our children to read at Head Start? I will then talk through the progression, so where children start and where they end up by the end of Year 2 and coming into Year 3 as well. We're going to have a lovely demonstration here from our wonderful volunteers of what a phonics lesson looks like at Head Start. And then we're going to be talking about our weekly sequence. This is something new and something that we've changed this year at Head Start. I'm really excited to show you what we're doing in our classes each week. We're going to be talking about how we're applying these skills. So how you can support at home with homework, with reading, and using Bug Club and Phonics Bug at home as well. Obviously, this year we've also introduced Spelling Shed. So I'll be talking a little bit more about that and why we've chosen it and how it really does support our children with their spelling and also with their reading and their understanding of sounds. The last thing we're going to talk about is this understanding that Mr. Khan just briefly touched on, okay? Because our children might be able to decode, they might be able to read beautifully, but it's this understanding that is also really, really important. So, first of all, what is phonics? Now, English is a very tricky language to learn. We've got some rules, but we like to break them. So when we're teaching children how to read, we have got, obviously, our different letters here, and each letter has a different sound. So we've got the letter S, and the name of the letter is S, but the sound it produces is S. So the children have to learn the name of the letter, but they also need to learn the sound that it produces. So, the first thing we've got is some letters that produce one sound. As children progress in phonics, they start learning that 3 letters can come together and produce a sound, that 2 letters can come together and produce a sound. These are called our phonemes, and the children progress through these as they develop through the phonics phases. So once children know the sounds, they know that this makes a s, a, t. They know the sounds that those letters produce. They can then start to apply them and read them in words. To start off, they do something called segmenting. So say they're reading the word sat. They would look at this word and they'd go s, a, t. They know the sounds that those letters produce, but now they've got to blend them to make them into a word. So they'd go s, a, t, sat. And that's how we start those building blocks of them beginning to read. So you might have noticed at home, if a child comes across a word they don't understand, they start breaking it up into these separate sounds. This is also then applied when they're spelling as well. So they use it when they're reading, but then when they're spelling the word sat, they'll go s, a, t, and then they'll use those sounds to produce those letters and spell those words. It's a two-way process. Okay, so the progression of phonics. There are 6 phases altogether, and the teaching of phonics starts way down in reception, and we go way up into Year 2, and sometimes in Year 3 as well. We're recapping on some of the phases, because obviously children are always having to apply them when they're reading new words. So, in phases 1 to 5, the children are learning new sounds. When it comes to phase 6, they're learning spelling rules, and they're learning all those words that we break all those rules as well. So within each phase, there's also some tricky words. Like I said before, English is a very complicated language. We've got these rules, we've got these sounds, but there are still lots of words out there that you can't apply phonics. So for example, the word the. If you use your sounds, you won't be able to sound out and say that word or read that word or spell that word. So the children have to learn these as separate words. They have to learn them by looking at them, by practicing them. So within each phase, they've also got a list of these tricky words as well. And these are really common words that the children are going to be using in everyday, like reading, writing, every day at school. They also have common exception words. Again, these are similar to our tricky words. So these are common words that children are going to be using within each year group, and ones that typically you cannot use your phonics to sound out and to read and to blend. So by the end of year 1, most children should be able to read and write these words. There's also a list for year 2 as well. So I'll talk you through the phases now. So the children start off in phase 1. Now phase 1, they start in reception, and it's basically getting children to be aware of sounds. They're listening to sounds in their environment, they're producing sounds themselves, they're listening to stories, they're listening to rhyme, they're using alliteration. So no sounds are normally taught in phase 1, it's just giving them an awareness of sounds and noises. In phase 2, the children are starting to learn the different sounds that the letters produce. And you can see sometimes we've got the same sound but made in different ways. So we've got k, k, and k, okay? All those 3 produce the same sound, but the children have to learn which one they're going to use, which one they're going to apply in their spelling. Phase 3, we've got some more of these digraphs. A digraph is when you have 2 letters producing one sound. So here we've got sh. We've got the C and the H coming together to make a sh sound. We've also got some trigraphs as well, where you've got 3 letters producing one sound. Phase 4 is children blending some sounds that they've already learned. Now at Head Start, we don't explicitly teach phase 4 because the children are applying those skills in phase 3 and in phase 5. So we tap on some of the blending as they're learning throughout all their phases, but we don't explicitly teach phase 4 as a separate phase. And in phase 5, this is where children have to really apply all their knowledge. These are our alternative sounds. So here, the children have learned A. I know how to make the A sound. I can read the A sound. If I'm writing the word rain, I know the A sound. But there's also another way of making an A sound, and there's another way of making an A sound. So by the time they get to phase 5, the children have got to be choosing the right phoneme to use, okay? And this one is called a split digraph. So the sound it makes is A, but this line here represents a missing letter. So for the word snake, you're making an A sound, but the K comes between. Okay, so the letters are still making that A sound, but it's broken up by another letter. So, phase 6 normally begins in year 2. And we're moving away from phonics now. Children should know all their sounds that they've learned in phase 2 to phase 5. They should be fluent, they should be getting confident. They should be reading words automatically. They shouldn't be doing this decoding process, only on some unfamiliar words. Most of their reading should be fluent. During phase 6, the children are learning spelling rules, okay? And they're also learning to use different strategies. So, we're teaching children how to use the past tense, how to use suffixes, how to change words into the past tense, making sure the children are writing in the correct tense. They're spelling longer words, and this is really key. They're using self-help spelling strategies. They're no longer using their phonics. When they are writing, when they are reading, they're using visual strategies. They might write a word, look at it and go, oh, I don't think I've used the right A sound there. They're crossing it out and they're having a go. So they are becoming more active in their spelling. They're being able to correct mistakes. Now, the more a child reads, the more a child is exposed to the letter patterns and to the words, the better spellers they become and the better they get at this stage. Because they'll be able to look at a word and go, oh, that definitely doesn't look right. and they'll be able to then use their self-help strategies and make corrections. Okay, I'll hand you over to Mr. Young now, who's going to show you a lesson.
Thank you very much. Okay, we wanted to show you a very simple phonics lesson. Our phonics lessons last about 35 minutes every day, but obviously we're not going to sit here for 35 minutes today and do a whole phonics lesson. So we just wanted to show you a shortened version of one with the styles of the show. So can you stand up and just come here for me? Stand up. I'm going to have to try and juggle sounds, microphone, clicker. Okay, so we start every session learning a new tricky word. Every week we try and learn 2 new tricky words. They are linked to the phase we are learning. Daria, tell me the tricky word, please. They. Okay, can someone use they in a sentence for me? Go on, Benson. They are my friends. Good sentence. Can someone else think of another sentence? Daria. They will be my friends. So they're already trying to apply this new tricky word, trying to understand it. For many of our children, English is their second language. Also trying to help model how to use that tricky word correctly for all of our children. Okay, and then we spend time every single day doing the sounds we have been learning all year. We don't want to forget these. These are in every word that we write every single day. So we'll very quickly go through the sounds that we have learned. Look at this way, ready, go. Oh, you're beating me, you're too quick. And can you see how speedy they get at these sounds? These are not new sounds. These are sounds they've been learning. They may have even learnt them in reception. They can do these so quickly, and normally a lot quicker than this. Good. And then we also, these are our phase 2 sounds. We also have our phase 3 sounds. They are the sounds we're currently learning in year 1. Thank you, Benson. We will also recap these. These are not as familiar to the children. They may not even appear as much as the other sounds we have learned, but they will be pretty good at them, I'm sure. Very good, they're very good. Can you also hear that they're making the smallest sound possible? For example, qua, not qua, because that would suggest there's a qua and a sound. It's very common when adults and children start blending, start using sounds, that they use a sound at the end. I have a very strong English accent where I use quite a lot, but they make the smallest sound possible. Just for when they're blending, if they're using qua-in, it sounds like qua-in, qua-in. Mind blown, it doesn't quite work, so they use the smallest sound possible. And then, sorry guys, you are waiting very patiently. We then introduce a new sound. This is not a new sound for these children, but for the purpose of today, I will show them a new sound. My turn, your turn. Shh. 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 Okay, and we also, every single day, practice this new sound. We practice handwriting. They can just start to see the sound being formed together, especially when we move on to digraphs and trigraphs, starting to recognise the 2 letters that make that sound. And then we will have a go at blending. Are you ready? Shh. Up. Shh. In. Shh. It. Very good. And then we'll start to apply those sounds straight away. You can see the focus now is just on sh, sh, sh. We just want to focus on this sound for the day. We use something called sound buttons. Daria, that word is they. Do you think it's going to have a dot or a line? Line. Why would it have a line? Because it's a tricky word. We cannot use sound buttons for that word. It is a tricky word. You just need to know it. What is that tricky word? Ah, we learned that one today. What's the next sound? Shh. Good. Will it have a dot or a line?
Dot.
Oh.
One line and 2 dots.
Oh, you're doing a whole word, one line and two dots. Da, 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 da. Because it's a digraph, you say the sound together. Sh, sh. Thank you. Next one is a tricky word. So thank you. Next sound. Sh, sh. Then we blend and then we read. So this time we're going to blend it. Okay, ready? They, sh, the, sh, op. Now you can read it. Go. They, shut, the, shut. Of course, they're not robots. We don't want them to be reading like this. Sh, the, sh, up. We don't speak like that. It's not how we read. But it increases that fluency already when they're starting to read. And we keep applying. So we use something called Phonics book in our phonics lessons. It links to the reading books that you read at home, hopefully, on book club. The children will now have a go at getting their whiteboards and using the sh sound. Is that the laser? Which one's the laser? Oh, that one, I see it. And as you can see, we're already showing them and giving them a little bit of help. That's it, you can have a go. Have a go, Daria, writing ish. And you can see that there is a digraph, so they're starting to see some spelling as well. They know that's where the sh sound will go today. Ish. Okay, so you can open your pens, you can have a go at writing, Daria. Good. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Show me. Good job. Okay, we'll do one more. Just something a little bit different, just to show you again. There's now 2 digraphs. Now it sounds like sh, all. Most children, when they're learning, will just think that's one all, because that's what they can hear, sh, all. But they also know that all can be a digraph, hopefully. And I promise I haven't practiced this with them. We'll do 2 L's there. It is quite early in the morning. They're doing a good job. Okay, should we have a look? 1, 2, 3, show me. Yeah. Give them a round of applause. There we go. Well done, all done. Okay. I'll hand you back to Miss Wintersgill. Year 1 Blue, you can go back to the classroom. Can we give them one more round of applause, please?
Thank you. Okay, so in our weekly sessions, our lessons look like this. On a Monday to Wednesday, we are teaching those children new sounds, just like Mr. Young has just shown you. So Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday, our lessons will look like this. On a Thursday, we're using all those 3 new sounds and we're applying them in a story. So we're then applying them in a real life context. The children have learnt them for 3 days in a row, they should be really secure, and now it's their turn to apply them and see them in real life. And on Friday, they have their spelling test, and they start to apply the sounds through fun games and different activities as well. So you can see that we're really focusing on those 3 sounds throughout a whole week and giving them lots of different experiences as well. So, on Thursday, our lesson looks like this. We're starting to apply the 3 sounds that we've learned on Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday. And we choose a book. Now Phonics Bug and Book Club are really good because the books link to the sounds. So for example, we've learned the sh sound. So this book will contain quite a few sh words. So the children are then seeing them, they're using them. Okay? So at the start of the lesson, the sounds are reviewed. The children are practicing the sounds. They're reading some of the words that they're going to encounter in the book. They're reading some of the tricky words that they're going to encounter in the book as well. We do all this before we even open the page. This helps develop fluency. The children have already done that sounding out, segmenting process, before they've even opened the book. And when you're at home and you're reading some phonics book books, you will see that on the first page, they have this all separated out for you. You can see the sounds that they're going to encounter, you can see the tricky words, and you can see some of the common words that they're going to read as well. So really good when you're using Book Club or Phonics Bug, use that first page, talk about the book, get those children practicing reading those words, so that when they're reading the book, they're going to be fluent, and they're going to be reading for understanding, rather than segmenting and blending. So, once the children have read the book, and we read using lots of different strategies. So normally the book is broadcast on the screen. The children sometimes read sentences in their heads. They might read them to their talk partner. I might read them and stop mid-sentence. They've got to carry on. So we're using lots of different strategies to get them engaged, to get them reading. After we finish the story, we are then going to go through the book. Can you find a sh sound? We're using the pictures, we're using the images. Again, we're going over the sh sound. We're returning to it, we're revising it, we're applying it. Can you find a ch sound? So obviously here we've got shell and we've got chicken as well. Like I said before, we're also reading for this fluency. So I do quite a lot of this, which is called read like a teacher. So the children, they're beginning to read. They might read this first of all like, Mum, I am lost. Mum, I am lost. They're still segmenting. It's okay. They're learning to read. They're applying their sounds. But I'll say, oh, can you read that like a teacher? And the children then start using their expression. They can read the sentence again. Repetition is really important. It's really helpful when children are reading, because the first time they read it, they're segmenting, they're concentrating on so many different things. The second time they read it, they can add expression. They can begin to understand what those words mean. So, Mum, I am lost. And the children will repeat that, and they love that bit as well, reading like a teacher. And this is all still in our Thursday lesson. The children are then spelling some of the words that they've seen in the text and some of the pictures as well. And as Mr. Young said before, we've got these phoneme frames. So this word is chick, ch-ick. The size of these boxes reflect whether it's a trigraph or a digraph. So they can see the first sound is going to be made out of 2 letters. So ch-ick. The same with the last one as well. Okay, I'll pass you over to Mr. Young again.
So me, thank you. So how you can help at home, as Ms. Wintergill mentions earlier, we started Spanish Ed this year. The children love it. Every morning we review it in our homeroom sessions. They want to see who they've beaten, who is winning in the whole school, which year group is winning. It's so competitive, but actually, most importantly, we're seeing that the children that are accessing Spanish Ed the most are the children that are applying these in their learning. That's why we do it, really. We're not going to tell the children that, but that's why they practice these spellings. We've sort of suggested how often you would like to do this. Some children, I think, must go on their mum's phone as soon as they're picked up and play all night and have scored millions and millions of points. We're not saying spend hours and hours on it, but you can use it as much as you like, as much as the children like. It is very engaging, there's different levels. We would always suggest starting with easy or medium. The sounds are given. You know, we've explained that we're giving the children new sounds all the time, so that gives them a chance to see the sound. If your child is feeling more confident, they can move on to hard extreme. That's when they're given the whole alphabet, and then they've got to remember what that sound looks like. What does sh look like? Oh, it's S and H. It's not given to me anymore. The children will know if they go for harder extreme, you do get more points. Points mean prizes. So we also have Spanish Ed, and Book Club is something that we've had for quite a while now. As Miss Wintergill says, we only have, we assign the children 2 books a week. These link to the sounds the children are learning. If we have read Chick Gets Lost in our phonics session, they send that home. That's the book they have at home as well. We're not giving them new books, we're not giving them blind text that they've never read before. These are ones that we want them to practice. It doesn't matter if they finish that book in 5 minutes. try the next day. Can they remember the tricky word they didn't remember the day before? We're giving them 2 books. We only want them to really read 2 books a week, sorry. They can read that as many times as they like. What we have avoided is giving them 10 books, and at the end of the week they say, I've read 10 books. And what has really happened is that they have read 10 books, but they're still blending and segmenting and not reading words. They've missed some tricky words because they don't understand them. They've not looked at the pictures, so they don't really understand what they're reading. So it is just 2 books, but please read and read and read again. We've also suggested all 2 times 20-minute slots a week. We're all busy people. It's always hard to sit down with your child and have time to support them at home, but just 2 times a week will make such a difference. There's a little statistic, I don't know if it's going to, here. So I remember when I trained to be a teacher, actually, this came up. This is if you read with your child. So by the age of 5, if a child's never read to, they'll access that many words. If a child reads 1 to 2 times a week, with that many. If they read 3 to 5 times a week, it'll be that many. And if it's daily, by the age of 5, they would have had access to nearly 300,000 words, which is just phenomenal. I'm not particularly saying they're new words, but these are words that they will see all the time in books. And they're the children that will start to recognise all these words when you're walking around the shopping centre and start spotting it. I was like, oh, that word was in Chick Got Lost. I've seen it somewhere before. I just find this phenomenal, just obviously depending on how much you read with your child or how much time they spend reading their books and how many words they have access to. There's also a little video that we're going to play. It's a really good video actually. It just explains a little bit more how to read with your child and some sort of tricks and tips of what you can do, so hopefully it will play.
Reading aloud with your child is an important part of their education. It teaches them how to speak fluently, listen carefully, and eventually the ability to read by themselves. Here are 5 tips to make the time you spend reading with your child more effective. Number 1, show them the cover. Before reading to your child, show them the cover of the book and ask them questions about it. This is a great way to engage their interest and work their imagination. Number 2, test your child's interest and progress. Children can be easily distracted. To keep them focused, ask questions such as how they think the characters are feeling. What do they think will happen next? This helps to keep them interested and tests their predictive skills. Number 3, check newly acquired skills. Stories contain diversified vocabulary. Whenever new words pop up, make them guess the meaning by using picture clues. Break down sentences that they do not understand and constantly ask simple questions. Number 4, make it engaging. Children tend to be more attentive when the story comes to life. They need to differentiate between characters to follow the plot, so using separate voices and nuancing lines is a good trick. Number 5, get feedback from your child. At the end of the book, ask your child what they enjoyed or disliked about the story and explain why. Asking these types of questions improves their oral fluency. It also encourages them to form opinions and gives them the confidence to express their preferences more. Any one of these 5 tips should engage your child with reading and hopefully start them on a journey of being a lifelong reader. For more helpful videos like this one, please visit.
Okay, thank you. So just 5 really simple things that you can do when you're reading with your child at home. So the next thing I want to talk about is comprehension and fluency. So obviously once the children have got this basic phonetic awareness and they're reading, it's this understanding that's really key and really important, and starting to use expression when they're reading as well. Okay, so they're not reading like robots, as Mr. Young mentioned, they're reading with expression. The story is coming to life for them. Now in your handouts as well, we've got some examples of some really good questions that you can ask your child when they're reading at home. They can be really simple questions of, why did the chick get lost? Or what colour is the chick? Or they can be deeper, okay, more inferential. So you might ask, how was the character feeling at that point? How do you know? What clues were there? And ask them to look in the text for evidence as well. So sometimes I have this email, which is, my child has read all their books in their book band. Can they move up? Okay, so your child has read all their books, okay, they've read blue, they're confident. I'm using data from Book Club, okay, teachers are using them. As you can see here, we've got 2 children. One children's done 56 quizzes, and they're getting 80% of them right. So that means that every time they're asking a question, 80% of the time they're getting it right the first time. The second child has completed 24 quizzes, and it's 54% of the time they're getting those comprehension questions right. So in this case, even though your child has read all those books, they're not showing this secure understanding. Now, your child is not going to benefit from moving up a book band, because even though they might be reading fluently, okay, and they might have read all those books, they're not understanding what they're reading. So giving them more difficult text is just it's not going to help them at all. They're not going to progress, they're just going to get lost in words, they're going to get lost in text. So sometimes we might say, I'm afraid that your child isn't ready to move up yet. And like I said before, the repetition of reading a book again and again and again is actually really, really helpful for a child, and it does really support them, okay? They can really get involved in the story, they understand it, and they can use all these different skills as well, okay? So, in your pack, we have included some helpful resources for you. We've got some comprehension questions in the form of a bookmark that you can ask at home. There's Year 1 questions, there's Year 2 questions. We've got all the sound maps as well. Now, throughout the school, every teacher in every class are using the same sound maps. So the children should know these really, really well, okay? So maybe if you're doing spelling at home or they're doing writing at home, use the sound maps as well. If they need to if they're doing spelling or they're doing some writing, they're really good at using these, and it helps them become independent when they're writing. We've also got the common exception words as well. Okay, these are the words that the children should know by the end of Year 1, and the words they should know by the end of Year 2. And as I said before, these are the words that you can't rely on your phonics for. These are the words that the children just have to learn, okay? But they're normally quite good with these because, as I said, they see them every day, they're using them every day as well. But I think that's it from us. So if you have any questions, please ask away. Yeah?
You said about the Book Club that it tracks how the child answers the question, right?
Yeah.
And every book that has been read can be accessed again in the library, right?
Yeah.
If, let's say, my child has every answer wrong, and then we go back to the library and he has some correct, will this be overwritten, or does it need to be said again for you that you look at it first? Because otherwise you wouldn't have noticed that he has been doing so bad.
Yeah. So this is why we've got green, amber and red quizzes. So the green is the first time they attempt it. The amber is the second time they attempt it, okay? And then you've got the red, which is the third time they attempt it. So we can see them progressing, and we can see, you know, that the children are, as they read it again, oh, they've got more questions right this time, okay? So this child, this is the amount of quizzes that they've got where they're getting a few more of them incorrect, if that makes sense. Yeah, so we can see that they're progressing. We can see the first time they opened that book, they read it, and they got, you know, 5 correct. The second time, they got 7 correct. So we can see that progression. So we won't just be blinded by the fact that they've done it 3 times, and the last time they did it, they got them all right, and we go, oh, okay, they're ready to move up then. Okay, the way the data is set out in Book Club, we can see what they got their first time, their second time, their different attempts that they've done on that book. Any other questions? Okay, alrighty. Thank you so much for coming, and I hope that you found it useful, and the resources as well. Obviously this has been filmed, and the slides and all the resources are going to be emailed out to you as well. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.